Number 4, still in our Chrp 09 June 2023 past paper. So number 4A, explain the limitations of using return on investment as a measure of training effectiveness. So what are some of the disadvantages associated with ROI, or return on investment, as a measure of training effectiveness? Remember, we looked at so many measures that you could use to gauge whether training was effective or not, and return on investment was one of the methods. So right this moment, you want to look at some of the disadvantages that are associated with this measure as a measure of seeing whether training was effective or not. Number 1, return on investment, or ROI, the initials, doesn't consider the time value of money. So when calculating ROI, the timing of the cash flows is not taken into account. That is the major drawback, or that is the major limitation of this method. You'll be able to check how much have I basically raised in terms of the returns, but how the cash is coming in, or how the cash is basically flowing in and flowing out, is not basically considered in this measure, which makes it a disadvantage. And then we have number 2, ROI doesn't consider the size of the investment, i.e. a high ROI on a small investment may not be as significant as a lower ROI on a large investment. Therefore, return on investment does not provide a complete picture of the actual profitability of the investment. So because of the fact that it does not consider the size of the investment, then that also makes it a drawback of using this measure as a way of seeing whether training was effective or not. So that is also a disadvantage. And then we have number 3, ROI does not consider the risk associated with an investment. It doesn't at all. First, we said it does not look at the time. Second, we said it does not look at the size of the investment. And third, it does not consider the risks associated with the investment. Returns on investment specifically deals with the returns only. It doesn't consider how these returns came. It doesn't consider what were the risks involved in having these returns. It doesn't consider how long did we get the return. So all that makes this method at a very disadvantageous rate, basically because it does not put into consideration all those important factors which matter a lot when it comes to business. And then number 4, ROI does not consider external factors that may impact on the investment. Doesn't consider things to do with the cost, things to do with inflation, and any other external factors that will affect the training effectiveness. The only thing that returns on investment focuses on is basically the returns in terms of the money or the cash that is coming in as a pay. But issues to do with any factors that are affecting the training program and so on, it doesn't put into consideration. So that also becomes a disadvantage. And then lastly, return on investment can as well be manipulated. How can it be manipulated? It can be manipulated by adjusting the inputs or maybe figures that are associated with the inputs. So they say ROI can be manipulated by adjusting inputs used in the calculation. So once it is manipulated, that can give you a wrong indication, of which that can also be a disadvantage. So those are some of the limitations associated with using return on investment as a measure of training effectiveness. And then number 4B, it says, explain the measures that an employer may take to ensure a training program is up to date. What measures will you take as an employee to ensure that your training is up to date? Because remember, we say we are living in a very dynamic environment when it comes to business, when it comes to anything. Our industries, our businesses are becoming so much dynamic. Even in training, because of the pace of technology, then training could be obsolete. Training could become outdated. So what is it that you can do as a manager to ensure that your training program will always be up to date? Always assess the needs. because needs keep on changing. These gaps keep on changing depending on the dynamism, the dynamic nature of the environment. So assess the needs and try to know what is needed and give accordingly. And then always review and update your training content. Ensure that your training content is always updated because of the pace at which things keep on changing. Once you use a training content that is used this year and then use it next year, you are being so unfair to your employees because things keep on changing. So what is learned now, even next year is far. What is learned now this month might not be needed next month. So ensure you review and update your training content. And then also invest in training technology. Yes, ensure you invest in technology. That is the only way you are going to remain up to date. Otherwise, you become obsolete, you become outdated, and you lose appeal. So ensure you invest in training technology. Also, evaluate and monitor your training program to ensure that it is the up-to-date one, to ensure that it has all whatever it takes to remain, for it to remain relevant and for it to remain up to date. So ensure you evaluate and monitor your program always. And then also have a tendency of researching the latest trends and best practices as far as training is concerned. That will help you to incorporate new trends, that will help you to incorporate new practices and best practices and make your training program to be relevant and always up to date. And then regularly updating your content and delivery, which is somehow similar with here we've only addressed the issue of content, but here we're addressing both the content and delivery. So ensure you regularly update your content as well as update your delivery so that you can remain relevant and up to date. So that is our question 4 of this paper. Thank you, and let's meet in our next question.